shit. I lost my way. And I sure hope that any videos released after this don't randomly have me back in my old location. Seasonal Gay Anime Spotlight. And as you know, this is a show where I look at the queer characters of each season of anime and talk about them as they are in the first 3 to 4 weeks of the spring season. Yada yada, introductions, let's get into it. And let's begin with our first segment, Rewind to Gay, the part of the show where if an anime that features a queer character gets another season, I recap those previous seasons that featured the queer characters and speculate what might happen in this new season.
And we'll start it off with Lily from Zombieland Saga Revenge. In case you didn't know, in the first season of Zombieland Saga, Lily was revealed to be a transgender girl. Her backstory is incredibly sad, and her reveal as a transgender girl broke the internet for a few days. The other characters accept her as a girl, and Lily is actually kinda happy that she'll be able to stay a cute girl forever. Nothing new has been shown in regards to Lily's transgenderness in this new season, not that there necessarily has to be. So it'll be seen if Lily gets a centric episode this season as well.
And now let's talk about the queer characters in this current season of anime. Or at least, that's what I'd like to say, if there were any to talk about. Sure, there might be some in some of the anime that I'm not watching, but in terms of the anime that I am watching, nothing yet. Though I am aware that some of them have queer characters that will eventually appear, so we'll have to wait for that till next episode. So with that out of the way, let's move on to our next segment, Recap of last season. The part of the show where I look at the queer anime of last season and talk about them, of whether their characters ended nicely or badly. But that does mean that there are spoilers ahead. You've been warned. First, let's talk about the return of our beautiful gay boys in Given the movie. Picking right off where the anime left off, this time around the story focuses on Akihiko and his struggling relationships with both Ugetsu and Haruki.
In case you need a refresher, Akihiko had previously gone out with Ugetsu in the past, but they broke things off. Though they still live together and sleep occasionally, with Akihiko drowning himself in the arms of women. Haruki, meanwhile, has an unrequited crush on Akihiko that Akihiko is somewhat aware of. There are 2 events that bring things to a boiling point. One is that Haruki, worried about being left behind by his bandmates that are improving faster than he can handle, decides to also play with his ex-girlfriend's band. And the second is that Akihiko runs into Ugetsu sleeping with another man. The two have a fight and Ugetsu kicks him out. Akihiko runs to Haruki's place for help, and when he thinks that Haruki might be leaving him in the band, he tries to force Haruki to stay by sleeping with him. It actually results in a rather uncomfortable assault scene, since even though Haruki likes Akihiko, he doesn't want this.
Yeah, if you know me, I'm not a fan of this. The emotions are there for a scene like this, and everyone still feels in character, but I'm just not a fan of scenes like this.
Akihiko soon stops and immediately apologizes. Haruki allows Akihiko to stay the night, but leaves to sleep somewhere else. When he returns in the morning, Akihiko discovers that Haruki has gone through the anime haircut of character development, since the only reason that Haruki kept his hair long was because Akihiko liked it. After some convincing, Haruki allows Akihiko to stay at his place for now. As time passes, Akihiko and Haruki grow closer, though still at an arm's length. In order to move on with his life and strengthen his relationship with Haruki, Akihiko tries to break things off with Ugetsu, who doesn't allow it. However, after hearing Mafuyu's newest song, which by the way brought me to tears again, Ugetsu is finally able to let go of Akihiko. And as the weeks pass, Akihiko and Haruki improve their lives. Haruki plays in the main band and his ex-girlfriend's one in order to broaden his horizons, and Akihiko attends college more and gets back into the violin, as we learn that he is bettering himself to become a man that Haruki can love. So when both of them are in a good place in their lives, Akihiko confesses his love for Haruki and the two officially start going out. And as for Mafuyu and Uyama, they are mostly in the background for the movie since this is Haruki and Akihiko's story. But Mafuyu is continuing to improve his musical skills as him and Uyama continue to grow closer in their relationship.
I'd say my only negative with the movie, besides the assault scene, is that the movie feels way too short. It only clocking in at an hour, 54 minutes if you take out the ending credits. The pacing feels rushed, and I feel like the movie could have benefited from having 20 to 30 more minutes in order to flesh more things out. But in the end, just like the TV series, Given the movie continues to be a complex and intriguing look at the lives of these 5 queer boys. The themes carried over from the TV series continue to make Given a BL anime that is a cut above the rest, as it deals with our queer boys' complicated lives and their struggling future, as well as their queer relationships. It still continues to be my favorite BL anime, and I hope to see it continue in the future, whether that's with another movie or with another anime season. A short one to talk about is Honoka Sawada from Horimiya.
In episode 6, Miyamura is being constantly followed by Honoka, with Hori thinking that she likes him and doesn't like the relationship between her and Miyamura. Close, but But it turns out that Honoka likes Hori instead.
Plot twist!
After this is revealed, Honoka constantly follows and gets too cuddly with Hori despite her displeasure at the fact.
It doesn't matter if you're both girls, Honoka. This is still predatory behavior.
Minamura eventually learns that Honoka suffers from anthrophobia, or a fear of men. It turns out that the only boy that Honoka wasn't afraid of was her older brother, who she was very close to, but he died a year ago. Learning about this, Minamura becomes more sympathetic towards her, and they end up forming a sort of brother-sister relationship, especially since Minamura reminds Honoka of her deceased older brother. Minamura even helping Honoka out to get more comfortable around men so that she can befriend them.
Yeah, the anime doesn't do that much with Honoka. Most likely it was skipped over from the original manga since the anime cut out a bunch of slice of life chapters in the adaptation process. And while she does get better, in her premiere episode she does exhibit a few of the stereotypical predatory lesbian tropes. But as we get to know her more and she stops falling into those tropes, she becomes a pretty likable character. Next up is Sorao, Toroko, Araki, and Natsumi from Other Side Picnic. As I mentioned last time, I like how this anime, much like number 6 is for the yaoi genre, is a slice-of-life show with yuri elements in them. I just wish that things went further here like they did in number 6. We'll start off with the main couple of Sorao and Toroko.
Episode 7 is great as it's a beach episode in the other world, and we get cute scenes of the two girls blushing at each other looking at each other in their swimsuits. Character development-wise, it seems that Toroko's mind is still on Satsuki. In fact, this is very prevalent that when Haruki compares Sorao to Satsuki, Sorao begins to think that Toroko only likes her because she's like Satsuki. In fact, Sorao starts to see Satsuki every so often, but doesn't tell Toroko about it, afraid that Toroko will leave her when she reunites with Satsuki. And unfortunately, this plot point is never resolved in the anime, so Sorao can come across as a little selfish, even if it does work for her character. In the final minutes of the last episode, the two realize how lonely they were before they met the other. Toroko was alone when Satsuki vanished, and Sorao was alone all the time. But they think that because of this, the other world connected the two of them together. Now they won't be alone anymore, because they have each other.
I was honestly kind of hoping for a love confession or a kiss in the final moments, but I was disappointed that it didn't happen. Even though there's an attraction between the two, they are still just friends as of right now, which makes me hope that there'll be another season so that we can get more development on their relationship, as well as the Satsuki plot point that was never resolved. Now let's quickly discuss Akari and Natsumi.
The two are childhood friends and ask Sorao and Toroko for help with supernatural troubles that's been harassing Natsumi. They all manage to work together to stop this threat, and we get this very cute scene where Haruki and Natsumi hold each other and say each other's name. It's not explicit, but there's enough subtext here for me to say that there is definitely something between Haruki and Natsumi.
I really do want a second season, because I want to see these relationships continue to develop. The next thing to quickly talk about is the unfortunate downgrade of Historia's character in Attack on Titan. So I kind of hinted at this in the last episode, but here it is. And it's kind of complicated, so just bear with me.
So in order to inherit the true power of the Founding Titan to activate the rumbling and control pure Titans, one must possess royal blood or be in contact with someone of royal blood. This has always put Historia in potential danger if the government were to use her by having her eat someone to become a Titan, which would only give her 13 years to live afterwards, or to make as many babies as possible so that the government will have more people with royal blood to inherit the Founding Titan. After being manipulated by different people like Eren and Yelena, Historia decides to have a child in order to delay her from inheriting the Beast Titan from Zeke. It's unknown who the true father is, but there's two possibilities. The story that is known to the public is that Historia had an out-of-wedlock pregnancy with a local who bullied her as a child, but many years later worked at her orphanage. But it's also hinted at that Eren could be the father as well.
There are still a few factors up in the air about Historia's pregnancy, and they may or may not get revealed in part 2 in winter 2022. And it's like, okay, Attack on Titan is a fantastic anime, and one of my favorite. But man, did they do Historia dirty. Which hurts as she's one of my favorite characters. Being possibly forced into pregnancy and now having to sit on the sidelines for the rest of the arc. It's really disappointing. Next up is Venus, or Kanamori, depending on what version you watch, from Heaven's Design Team. As I talked about in the last episode, Venus is a unique portrayal of a trans woman, in that it is never explicitly said through the dialogue, just in how Venus looks, speaks, acts, and is treated by others. Though there is one scene in a Venus-centric episode that gives us a better glimpse into it.
In episode 4, Venus is having trouble with her bird designs, as she seems to be more focused on making them flashy and beautiful than functional. She accidentally trips on her high heels, with Mercury saying that putting on so many accessories can be dangerous when you care more about it than functionality. While Venus says that this is true, she asks him to not have her deny her look. After all, she's not herself if she doesn't have all of her accessories, which is why she always treats her designs the same way.
And I can relate to that, especially before my transition and surgery. Clothes, makeup, having long hair, they were all important ways to showing off who I truly was inside. And it was nice to see a scene like that portrayed in the anime.
There's also a very comedic scene where Venus is trying to make a design of an animal that has cording that causes a throb. Venus attempts this by wearing an elaborate costume with lots of lights and music while singing. She even ropes Uede and Neptune into the fun, and the animal to come out of this is a long-tailed mannequin. The anime also continues to show off how special its portrayal of a positive representation of a transgender character is, with how the characters continue to view Venus. Once again, to them, Venus is a woman. And that's it. So it was great to see her get to bathe with the other female characters at the hot springs and change together with them for a party in hell. It's just very surprising to see this kind of simple but effective attitude towards portraying a transgender character, where their transgender identity is just a part of their character but not the main focus.
And don't get me wrong, I adore anime and other things that put its transgender characters at the focus where the main topic is them dealing with it. After all, Wandering Sun is my 7th favorite anime of all time. But it's also really great to have a transgender character like Venus be around without any special mention of it. I was actually trying to think of a way to describe why this is so special and important when I watched Lindsay Ellis's video of transphobia in media when she pointed out this example of positive representation.
Hell, there's even Difficult People's Lola, played by trans comedian and actress Shakina Nafak.
Third airplane goes right
into the Pentagon? I don't think so, bitches. That was a missile. And Tower 7 was brought down by a bomb.
Whose transness takes a back seat to the fact that she's Billy Eichner's work enemy and also a massive 9/11 truther.
May your love shine as bright as the sun did on that fair September morn when George W. Bush pulled off the greatest scam in American history since the moon landing.
On the character, Nafak had this to say: "In the quest for transgender visibility, we've only been introduced to sympathetic roles that rely on victimization or stereotypes in order to elicit empathy from our audiences. You're gonna love Lola because she's strong and opinionated and crass, not because she's getting bashed, locked up, or wrestling with coming out."
You do seem happier than usual. Granted, that bar is set about as low as the burning temperature of jet fuel. So how can it melt steel beams? Exactly.
The same can be said for Venus. You don't love her just because she's transgender and she fights against transphobia or something. No, you love her because she's a three-dimensional, well-rounded character outside of that. You love her because of how beautiful she is, her fabulous fashion, how well she gets along with others, her bright personality, her quirks, things she likes, things she dislikes, how cute she is as a child, her singing, her dancing, and also the fact that she happens to be transgender.
It's the type of transgender character that I hope to see more in the future of anime, so that we can get a mix of transgender characters whose identity is seriously focused on, and characters that are a big part of the story who happen to also be transgender. Variety is a beautiful thing, my viewers. And lastly, because this will take a while, let's talk about Momoe, as well as Haruka and Kaoru from Wonder Egg Priority. Trigger warnings for transphobia, rape, suicide, and gore ahead. Yeah, Wonder Egg Priority is one of those hard-hitting shows that does not hold your hand and goes all in without any regrets. And while I appreciate shows like this, I think it's important to mention those trigger warnings, as it could be hard for some people. But anyway, Wonder Egg Priority is sort of like a Kinuhiku Ikuhara anime, where everything is mostly explained through visual storytelling and subtext, with everything meaning something important. And while I could go on for a while about the anime's many shortcomings, as of right now, it's honestly my favorite anime of the winter season, and is the type of show that reminds me, holy shit, I love anime. But again, a lot is shown in subtext, and the plot and characters can be kinda complicated, which is why this will take a while.
Okay, so where to start with Momoe? Well, she's a girl who in life is often mistaken as a boy due to her more masculine expression and personality. So many girls end up confessing their love to her, but not as a girl to another girl, but towards this male-expressing girl. This makes Momoe struggle with her gender identity. The only person who truly saw Momoe as a girl was her close friend Haruka, but things got very complicated when Haruka confesses her love to Momoe, but as a girl loving another girl, and loving her intimately. Momoe gets scared about this and runs away, and because of this and other factors that are hinted at, Haruka commits suicide by jumping in front of a train. Momoe feels extremely guilty about this and blames herself. So she enters the dream world, run by the mannequins of Aka and Uraaka. In this world, Momoe can spend money to get eggs that, when broken, hatch out an egg girl, someone who has died because they committed suicide. If Momoe can protect each girl from the see no evils and the girl's wonder killer, then the egg girl will be brought to rest peacefully. If Momoe succeeds in this enough times, she might have a chance to bring Haruka back to life.
Now here's where things get interesting.
Because Momoe is so used to people seeing her as a boy, she ends up taking on the role of the dashing prince that will rescue the damsel in distress. So when she hatches a new egg girl, she pretends to be a boy in order to help them calm them down, making it easier to put them to rest. This usually ends up with the egg girls falling in love with Momoe, even when they learn that Momoe is actually a girl.
Again, Momoe suffers from huge gender dysphoria, as she is ultimately confused on how she should address and express herself in the real world.
Usually the Wonder Killers attack Momoe for being this way, but she always fights back. This has helped that when our main character, Ai, meets her for the first time, she comments on how pretty of a girl Momoe is. This causes Momoe to burst into tears, being seen as a girl without any misunderstandings or having to explain herself. For the next couple of episodes, Momoe is happy to have some female friends that see her as a girl and as a friend. She also expresses to them that while she doesn't like that the girls confess to her because she's more masculinely expressive, it doesn't mean that she wouldn't mind a girl confessing to her.
So Momoe actually does fine for a while until we reach episode 10, where we're introduced to my sweet, handsome, charming baby boy Kaoru.
So to her surprise, Momoe is actually asked out by a boy to go on a date. This had never happened to her before, so she gets really excited. She dresses all cute with a pretty dress and makeup. Unfortunately, things go downhill quick when she arrives for the date and learns that the boy asked her out, thinking that she was a boy as well. While Momoe laughs off this misunderstanding, it clearly destroys her inside. So that's what's on her mind when she hatches her newest egg girl, Kaoru. But she quickly learns that while Kaoru may be biologically female, he sees himself as a boy. He is a trans man.
Okay, so I think the writers may have accidentally written themselves into a corner with this. The people that our main characters hatch out of their eggs are always girls, as that's how this system in Dream Wonder works. Even if Kaoru was born biologically female, he is a boy, plain and simple. This slightly implies that no matter what, Kaoru is a girl and thus hatches from the egg. However, to the anime's credit, it does state that Akka and Uraraka aren't knowledgeable of things outside of their cis heterosexual male mindset. So they are clueless when it comes to people like women, queer people, and people who fall in the transgender spectrum, which might be why they have Kaoru be an egg girl when he's actually a boy.
Okay, so here's where those trigger warnings that I talked about before come in. So the reason that Kaoru committed suicide, again, here it comes, is that he was raped by his kendo teacher and gets pregnant as a result.
Again, Wonder Egg Priority does not hold your hand and does not hold anything back.
This is most likely the reason that Kaoru committed suicide and ended up in the Dream Wonder. And by the way, Kaoru is wearing a trans flag colored jacket. When Momoe kills the Wonder Killer, she proudly pronounces that she is a girl. She also rips open her shirt, revealing a trans flag colored bra.
Okay, so there is a heavy debate on whether Momoe is a trans girl, and I understand that debate, since a lot of Momoe's struggles are similar to a trans girl's experiences.
She has more of a masculine and gender expression and personality, which confuses her, making her suffer from gender dysphoria, which is why she's really happy when she's automatically seen as a girl by Ai. A lot of her fights with the Wonder Killers is her professing out loud that no matter what, she is a girl, add in the fact that she's paired with a trans male character and her bra has transgender colors on it, and Momoe is subtextually a trans girl. This rings the most true to me when one of the egg girls comments on Momoe's broad shoulders.
And I'm not saying that cisgender women don't also have broad shoulders, but masculine-built trans women like me know exactly what I'm talking about. But anyway, I say subtextively because if Momoe was transgender, I feel like the anime would have said it more explicitly like they did with Kaoru. Lots of people see Momoe as trans, and I 100% respect your interpretation. I just think that her character isn't explicit enough to label her as transgender. I'd say maybe something like gender fluid or gender nonconforming. Or hell, much like the anime itself, I don't even think that Momoe should be given a label at all. But if you see Momoe as transgender, you are completely valid.
Anyway, after Momoe defeats the Wonder Killer, we get perhaps my favorite scene of anime in a long time. Kaoru says that when they are reborn, he'll protect her next time as her prince in shining armor. And by the way, Kaoru has given Momoe his transgender colored jacket. Kaoru calls Momoe a pretty girl, and Momoe calls Kaoru a brave boy. Kaoru even flirts with her, wondering if she'd go for younger boys. Momoe laughs this off, but Kaoru asks her to make him a promise to not get a boyfriend until the two of them can meet each other again. Before Momoe can question this, Kaoru kisses Momoe and disappears in a puff of smoke. Momoe looks at her animal companion Panic and blushes, asking them to keep this a secret.
And can I just say how cute and awesome it is that Momoe's first kiss is with a trans boy? And if Momoe is transgender as well, then that would make this a relationship, a transgender and transgender relationship, which you honestly don't see that often in media. But unfortunately, Wonder Egg Priority is a psychological horror anime and it loves its trauma, so here's another warning.
It turns out that Momoe has completed enough missions and Haruka is supposedly brought back to life. I say supposedly because she suddenly disappears and we haven't seen Haruka again in the real world. Suddenly though, a creature only known as Hyphen, who is too complicated for me to get into here, suddenly appears. When Hyphen attempts to kill Momoe, Panic defends her and is killed. Hyphen then starts to eat part of Panic's corpse and even force feeds it to Momoe. This causes Momoe to suffer from major post-traumatic stress disorder, and she's fearful of revisiting the Dream Wonder again and being with her friends that she met because of it.
And yeah, unfortunately, that's where the anime leaves Momoe as of right now. While the last episode leaves on a cliffhanger and many unresolved plot and character stuff, there is a special episode that will be airing towards the end of June to finish the story. But I still have my doubts that the anime can end everything with a completely satisfying conclusion. But so far, One Direct Priority is an anime that takes a unique and nuanced approach with its gender identity and dysphoria topics, like it does with many of its other hard-hitting topics, which is one of the reasons I love it so much despite its many shortcomings. Its unique storytelling approach to Momoe is fascinating to watch, making her my favorite character, and Kaoru is perfect representation of a transgender character that the anime treats with love and respect. And hey, since the anime suddenly brings up parallel worlds in the 12 episodes out of nowhere, maybe there's a world where Kaoru is alive and is in a relationship with Momoe. I can only dream. Here's to hoping that the special episode airing in late June ends Momoe's character, as well as a lot of other things, in a satisfying way. So, that's the end of the episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, like and comment on anything you want to say. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more. Catch you later.